welcome to the Music City Drive-In. I'm Eric Langford, and I am fortunate enough to talk today with Oliver Thompson, who is the director and writer of Welcome to Happiness, and also the musician. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Welcome.
I did the score. I didn't do. There was a lot of songs. Like I did not sing or perform on like the needle drops as they were, but all the instrumental score is me. That's actually what I went to college for, was music composition.
Awesome.
And then somehow became a filmmaker.
I started to watch into the credits of this, and it got to the music credits, and I was like, haha, that's question number one. So,
yeah.
So how are you? How's the press tour been for Welcome to Happiness?
Yeah, it's been cool. It's been a little crazy because, I haven't really thought about Welcome to Happiness much, and certainly haven't had to ask any hard questions about it in 5 years. And I got to admit on that, I'm a little bit more in practice now, but like on that first day, the first interview, first question, was like, wait a minute, what movie are we talking about right now? I'm being stupid. Of course, I love this movie, and I just hadn't, you get into a rhythm. And you start to like know your answers and kind of know, and I was so out of the rhythm. I probably looked like a total moron in that first interview, but I'll be better, and I'm in better shape for you. I promise.
I appreciate and completely understand what you're talking about. I don't think there's any worries here. I'll actually go ahead and ask you the most like odd question that I have, just because it's at the top of my mind. I'm most curious about this. With 4K, there are a lot of movies that are being released with tweaks and edits, Lord of the Rings, Indiana Jones, all these things. It's like each release is like, well, why don't we try and tweak the color correction or do something to make them look different? And then with Criterion, a Wong Kar-wai box set, so many little edits and all these things they did. They changed the aspect ratio on some movies and things. It used to be everyone's mad at George Lucas for messing with Star Wars. Now there's like this trend of living art and coming back to something as it is. And like, where do you stand or feel about this whole concept of, I'm going to go take a look at this, and yes, it was 5 years ago, but I think like this now?
Yeah. So, that's an awesome question. First of all, and I think like, I'll be honest, I love Star Wars, and I didn't necessarily love all the changes, but and I'm not just saying this now because I've gone and re-edited a movie of my own. I really was on George Lucas's side from the get-go, even if I didn't always agree, of course, like Greedo, right? Like I don't agree with your decision there, but and then walkie-talkies and ET, like things like that upset me. But there's other things, that Lucas did with Star Wars where I was like, no, I get that. That you have a different perspective now. You've made 3 more movies. There's a broader universe, a bigger thing. And you want to, now you can do these little things that can help connect the whole thing. He's thinking about an audience, a younger audience who doesn't have that same emotional connection to that first trilogy. And maybe they're going to sit down and they're going to watch all these movies, and he doesn't want them thinking, but wait a minute, why are all these creatures that are in, these first ones, why do they suddenly disappear when we get into the later ones? And he's like, well, I can fix that. I can add some of them into the background. I can, things like that didn't bother me the way they bothered a lot of other people. So I think, and you're right, there is now, I think we're a little bit more accepting of it. I think Star Wars was always just it's like a religion. It's not even, and at this point, it's not even like, so I think people are just extremely touchy about their particular religion, and they don't want anyone, even the creator of it, messing with it. But luckily, I don't think anyone has that kind of emotional tie to Welcome to Happiness. They're a little a little more open to me.
There's a Reddit for everything.
Yeah, good point.
But yeah, so I just a little bit about the movie, if you want to share what it's about.
Sure. Yeah, it's about a guy who he kind of lives in a magical apartment where there's a secret door in his closet that he's really just the gatekeeper to, he doesn't actually understand much about it. Other people show up at his apartment and his job is to shepherd them through. And what is on the other side is essentially an opportunity to undo a past regret or mistake, or really, whatever it is you would want to undo with the push of a button. So I guess that's the quick summary.
Mm-hmm. And so when you were coming back to this, as I understand it, it was an opportunity for someone to want you to re-release something, and then there was just a little window where it was like, maybe you can change something.
Yeah.
What was the driving force behind the differences you wanted to make?
Yeah. So, it's like so often with these kinds of analyzing the thing, like it's a lot stupider and not as interesting as like, oh, this, now I feel that it started this dumb. I had always wished the movie had chapter titles. And for one reason or another on the initial release, I didn't. I mean, I wanted to, and then it was like, I was deciding, shouldn't I? And I decided not to. And pretty much immediately when we started watching it with audiences, I was like, I made the wrong decision. This movie is the kind of movie that is better organized and more palatable and more digestible if you have, because the storytelling in Welcome to Happiness is actually more like a TV show or like a book or something, where it's told, there's a lot of different characters, you're following a lot of different threads. And it's not a traditional narrative that's really about one hero that we follow through a 3-act structure. It's very different from that. So those kinds of stories, whether it's episodes of a TV show or chapters in a book, have demarcations, and I knew it would make this movie easier to follow and easier to digest. And so that was all I was initially going to do. I just was like, oh, we're re-releasing it. Can I go put chapter titles in now? I always wanted to. And it was like, yeah, do whatever you want, So then I'm sitting there with the movie reopened for the first time in 6 years or whatever. And I'm like, now that I'm putting this chapter title on, the shot that it's on, I don't think it needs to be this long.
Mm-hmm.
I'll trim this shot down. And then it's like, well, I guess I'm like cutting things out of the movie. I could take out that shot I never liked. And then it's like, oh, next thing you know, you're taking out entire scenes. Next thing you know, your movie's 15 minutes shorter. So it really was just like that, like pulling the thread on a sweater. And I had no intentions of really doing that. It started in like the simplest of ideas and ended, where we are. But I'm really, stoked about it. It was it seems to be pretty unanimous that it's a better movie now.
I was going to say, have people given you feedback on the edit?
Yes. And it's overwhelmingly positive. I mean, 100% positive. There's not I haven't had a person yet go, I mean, I have had some people, there's been a little bit of like, oh, I really missed that. I get why you cut it and it is better without it, but I loved it, so there's some of that, but that's what deleted scenes are for, like you can watch these things. There's some nice moments, but in terms of actually sitting down and hitting play and watching the whole movie, it's just better without them. And so, it's been crazy positive.
That makes me feel honestly a little less weird. Doing some of the research on this, I look at a lot of the reviews and written interviews from when it was released, and I was not seeing the experience I had watching the movie reflected. You'd expect every interview probably to tell you this, but I really enjoyed the movie. I felt really moved by the ideas behind it. And I think I can appreciate what you're saying about the chapter titles, because somebody who is expecting a 3-act structure is probably like set up in the beginning, okay, which of these two main characters am I going to follow?
Mm-hmm.
And then has to get to know other characters. And it would but this is like, all right, that's done. So look what happened here.
Yeah.
Okay? And I really enjoyed watching it. And then you go and you read and it's like, okay, this is one of those things that I'm just not on the same page as other people. Oh, wait, I saw something you haven't seen yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And, it's hard to say. I mean, first of all, thank you. I really appreciate you saying that. And I wonder, though, if you would have liked the original version. You know what I mean? Because the heart of the movie was still the same. It's basically, you know, all the original version was like a reverse director's cut. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like you would have seen this version, and then the original version was like this version with 15 minutes more stuff. But it didn't change the really like the heart or the message or the tone or anything like that. So it just may have, I think the newer one, you know, just does go down a lot easier and is a lot better. So it's always hard to say, how would you have responded to the original? I don't know. I'm glad this is the original. What's that?
Where could we find the original?
I think it's still going to be available. I probably only through like DVD or Blu-ray though, because I think the original. Yeah, I think that'll still be available that way. But I apologize for not fully knowing the answer to that. But I do think I remember there being a conversation that like we're not excising this from the universe, that it does still exist if one wants to watch it. But exactly where, I'm not sure. But if you're curious, you know me after, I'll figure it out for you.
So I have one more kind of like odd off the wall question for you. Is Kyle Gallner actively trying to avoid blowing up and becoming super famous?
You would have to ask him. I don't know. Well, I don't know. I don't think so. But that's a interesting.
I can't understand. He to me, and you can speak to this more. Like the entire cast is fantastic. I think at this point it almost goes without saying, but it's worth saying. Like, yeah, right. Everybody that you had gave a lot to what's on screen, and Josh Brenner, like he impressed me a lot too. Like there are these core characters, and just like the way that they bring a certain grounded reality, some things I really appreciated. But like that's one of the things I keep seeing Kyle Gallner in these movies where he's like super open and sensitive and all these things, and it seems like the kind of person that you think would have some sort of like Marvel contract or something by now. And maybe,
I agree. Yeah, if it's of his own volition, I don't know, but I'm in agreement with you that he should be like a gigantic movie star. So why that has or has not happened is as much of a mystery to me as it is to you. But I don't know if it's self-imposed. Maybe it is.
So what's it like working with that team of people? Everybody, Josh Brandon, Patrick Brewster, Kyle, everybody, like being on set, it seems like there was a lot of everyone bringing to the table, like knowing what they're gonna do, to the point where like some people are like, oh, haha, Wes Anderson, but I'm like, no, a controlled camera is a controlled camera. That's not. But yeah. What was it like for you all on set together? It
was awesome.
Pressure?
Yeah. No, well, it never felt like that. That's the weird thing about this movie. This movie was very low budget and very ambitious. And, one of the things I'll say, so 15 minutes have been cut out, right? We had already cut 30 minutes out to get to the original version. We shot so much that is not in the movie. So it was even more ambitious than it might seem with the version, you saw. We had I think a 120 or 116 page script or something that we shot, which, is ambitious for a super small budget film. And it never had that feeling of, oh my God, what are we doing? We're flying by the seat of our pants. This is crazy. Like we made it out alive. We can't believe it. Was never like that. It was pretty, we were so prepared, and everyone was so on board, and everyone was such a team player from the cast and the crew that we had our hiccups, we had our speed bumps, but it was for the most part, a pretty smooth sailing, well-run set. Excellent. Yeah. Okay. But that was really fun, and it was a lot of fun because of dealing with all those people. I mean, with Keegan-Michael Key on set, you're having a good time.
Yeah. That's great. So what are the big takeaways that you're hoping people will have with Welcome to Happiness, either version?
Geez, I think that's the kind of I'm not trying to like cop out or whatever. I think that's the kind of thing you don't think about when you're like making a movie, I really, so
That's fair.
So the simplest thing, and it's so stupid and cliche to say, I would love for people to see it and enjoy it, or not enjoy it, whatever. But yeah, just see it and take away from it what they're going to take away from it. I'm not really sure how to answer that.
That's fine. Like I usually appreciate that approach, because then there's not like a consequence or like that. Like it's there, and people can enjoy it as entertainment. And if they enjoy more of it, then great.
Yeah.
Like, great.
Whenever I hear people, and it's all with no disrespect to anyone else, but like you often hear people say like, when they're talking about a movie, this was a story that needed to be told. We fought and we fought and we fought because we just knew this was a story. Like, I've never thought that way. I've just been like, oh no, that'd be cool. I'd love to go make that movie. Like, I'm just still just a little bit of a kid in a sandbox, I think. I don't know that I think much bigger than that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's
there is something kind of great about it, and thinking in a position of anyone who would want to be an independent filmmaker, this is something that you take larger than life concepts and you put them in a familiar, comfortable environment. Like it gives the feel like somebody's like, oh, if I have an idea, I can find a way to make that fit, my resources and make something. So there's something a little inspirational about that.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And you're right. You're totally on. I mean, the first conversation we had was, we talked a lot about Lost. And that was like one of the big inspirations for this movie was the TV show Lost. And so it's exactly what you're talking about. I remember saying, how do we take all these big, huge ideas and this island and this hatch and this, oh my God, Jacob, it's all so big. It's all so big. How do we take all those kinds of same ideas? Because that show just got you thinking, every day, the next day you'd be online and trying to figure out what was this clue and what was this thing. And it's all like, you're reading the Bible, trying to figure out, like, is there making some parallel there, and so it's like, how do we do that with the resources, to use the word you just used so perfectly, that we have? And it was like, well, we could make something like, what would it be like if we did something like that just in like some guy's little 1-bedroom apartment, and that was kind of how it was all born. So yeah, you work with the resources you have. It shouldn't stop the storytelling, really.
And so the other big question I have is for the soundtrack. How did you know? Was this just something you wanted to do, or doing a lot of the instrumental music yourself? Like, how did you end up making that decision?
Yeah, great question. I absolutely did not want to score the movie, despite having I have a bachelor's degree in music composition. I'm a serious musician. But I knew, okay, Oliver, like, you've worn enough hats on this.
Okay.
And then it didn't work out. I'm not throwing anyone under the bus, but it didn't work out with the composer we hired. We were in a time crunch, and it's like one of those things where it's like, okay, well, I can do it. Yeah. I do have the skill set to do this. So I guess I'll just do it, and I was I was free.
So,
I don't mean time wise. I mean,
yeah.
So that was the other big thing. Like, a
bonus.
Yeah, exactly. Huge bonus.
All right. So, when and where will this be available?
I think. Sorry, I'm not as prepared on that answer as I should be. I think just like most of the streaming, like probably
VOD release. That's right.
Yeah, all the VOD stuff. Yeah, like whatever.
Releasing it?
Strike Back Studios. I think. Yeah.
We know that link. They're broad VOD.
Broad VOD, sure.
Amazons,
so all that
iTunes.
Stuff. There you go. Thanks.
Okay, and do you know the time roughly? The day?
The 27th, I think, of August.
Excellent. The 27th of August, you can watch Welcome to Happiness, the special edition.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's call it that.
And all right. Is there anything else that you'd like listeners to know? Someone who is maybe needs a little convincing to watch.
Oh no, just that I apologize if I'm wrong about that date because I'm so.
It's like, all right, I'll set the 27th.
Yeah, exactly. If I might be wrong on that because I just I should write these things down. But
no, but thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And I really hope for success for the movie and that everybody finds it. And I hope that your next project goes well. As I understand, you're going to continue to work with one of the actors from here.
Yeah. Maybe more than one. We'll see. So yeah, a couple of Welcome to Happiness team members hopefully coming on board the next project. So fingers crossed and can't wait.